हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। भवानी शङ्करौ वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धा स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतायाः पतये नमः। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये। हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। So Bhagwan, after describing the kshetra and also talking about the 20 values as Jnanam, and he spoke about that Neyam Kshetrajna. And now Bhagavan is telling us how the Kshetra and Kshetrajna together becomes the cause of this world, cause of our bondage. So he talks about it as Prakriti and Purusha. So what was said as Kshetra and Kshetrajna is spoken of as Prakriti and Purusha. So Prakritim Purusham Cheva Vidhi Anadi Ubhav Api. Both of them are Anadi. Prakriti, which expresses as this world, is Anadi, and Purusha expresses as the Jivas are Anadi. So Purusha, identifying, seated in Prakriti, experiences the joys and sorrows and becomes a sansari. But when he comes to recognize himself as Paramatma, as that supreme Brahma, then he becomes free. So ya evam vetti purusham prakritincha gunais saha. So when one recognizes this Purusha along with the Prakriti, the real essence as Brahma, then such a person becomes free. He is not born again. Nasa, nacha, nasa bhuyo bhijayate. He is not born again. So how can one realize this Purusha as Brahma? What is the way? How can we do what type of sadhana we should do to realize myself as that Brahma and become free of this samsara? So Bhagavan talks about these sadhanas in the following verses. So let us chant verse number 24. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे. Bhagavan says, Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmana. Kechid, some seekers, Atmanam dhyanena pashyanti. They see or they realize this Atma, this Param Atma through dhyana. They recognize this Param Atma through dhyana. And where do they recognize? In their own antakkarana. So dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmana. With their own subtle and pure buddhi, they come to recognize their own supreme self in their own antakkarana and become free. This is the highest method, the ultimate. Through dhyana we can realize ourselves. But if one is not ready for dhyana, then others, they follow the path of Sankhya. Anne Sankhena Yogena. What is Sankhya Yoga also we will see. And if one is unable to do this Sankhya Yoga, then they follow the path of Karma Yoga. Karma Yogena cha apare. So the highest method is dhyana. Through dhyana we can realize our own self. What is dhyana? Is paying attention to our own self. Dhyana is possible only after gaining the proper knowledge. So through Shravan and Manan, when we gain knowledge, then we can meditate. Though the word dhyana, meditation, is very popular in the world, but most of them, what they are doing is not dhyana. Because dhyana is possible only after gaining knowledge of the self and conviction in this knowledge. Then only the dhyana is possible. Dhyana is paying attention to our own Supreme Self. So one should have proper understanding of that self, and then only we can shift our attention towards that self. So here Shankaracharya ji, he defines that dhyana in his commentary. What is dhyana? Dhyanena. What is dhyana? He says, Dhyanam nama shabdadibhyah vishayebhyah shrotradini karanani manasi upasamritya manascha pratyak chetayitari ekagrataya yat chintanam tad dhyanam. So the chintan, ekagrataya chintanam, single pointed contemplation, thinking of the Supreme Self. Through that thinking, one shifts the attention towards that self. That is dhyana. So in the beginning, one should withdraw the attention of the senses from their respective objects and place the senses in the mind. Shabdadibhyo vishayebhyo shrotradini karanani manasi upasamritya. Shankaracharya ji says that first withdraw the attention of the senses, and place them in the mind. See, our senses are extension of our mind. The karmendriyas as well as jnanendriyas, they are like extension of our mind. The seeing, hearing, tasting, touching which we do in this world is done with our senses, but the mind is there behind those senses. They are the extension. The mind remaining inside as though sends these senses out into the world to gain the stimuli in this world. If the mind is not behind the senses, we don't perceive. Like for example, you are sitting and listening. So whenever the mind goes away to some other object, then you will not be able to listen to what is being said. Many times it happens, then we ask someone, what was said? My mind was not here. So when the mind is not behind the senses, then the senses do not function. The eyes may be open, but if the mind is somewhere else, then we are not aware of what is in front of us. Your own friend is standing there smiling at you, but you are in your own dream world, unaware. Then when the mind comes back to the present moment, then we are able to perceive. So all the sense perception happen in the present moment. You don't pursue things of the past. What is there in the present, we see, we hear, we taste, we touch. What is in the past is just a memory. What is in future has not yet happened. But the mind tends to go into the past or sometimes wanders, imagines the future. So it is not available. So we fail to perceive what is there happening around us. So our sense perception happens because of the support of the mind. So these senses are extension of our mind only. And they can be withdrawn. In fact, when the mind goes here and there, at that moment the senses are not functioning, so they are as though withdrawn. But the mind is wandering in the world. So when one sits for meditation, one should first learn to withdraw the senses into the mind. See, when we go to sleep and when we dream, what happens? The organs of perception as well as organs of actions are withdrawn into the mind. Therefore, we are totally unaware, though the mind is active, we are totally unaware of the world and unaware of the body, unaware of all the sense perceptions, because the senses are withdrawn into the mind. So person is dreaming. Then when we try to shake him up, we touch that body and move him little bit, then the senses are projected back outside, and that person is awakened. So it's very interesting, these senses and their connection with the mind. In the Upanishads, the senses are the rupak, the metaphor is given that the senses are like the horses and the mind is like the reins which hold the horses. So the mind has got the capacity to hold the horses or allow them to run. But the reins themselves are under the control of the charioteer, who is the buddhi. So buddhi controls the mind controls the senses. And the senses, they perceive this world. So when one, after gaining proper knowledge of what? Knowledge of the Kshetrajna as Brahma. That is the knowledge given in the Upanishads, ki you are Brahma. You means the Kshetrajna is Brahma. Tattvamasi. So once I locate the Kshetrajna properly, I don't misunderstand the ahankar to be Kshetrajna or some thoughts of the mind to be Kshetrajna, but I locate the Kshetrajna properly and then understand the Kshetrajna as Brahma, and when I am convinced that yes, this Kshetrajna I am Brahma, then that knowledge is complete. Thereafter I can meditate. Those who don't have this knowledge, they can't meditate. They just close their eyes and agitate. So that is not called meditation. So when we are dreaming, what happens? Our senses get withdrawn so much that we become unaware of this world, unaware of the body. Unaware means we no longer perceive them because the organs of perceptions are withdrawn. Just like we are standing in our window and looking out, so we can see the outer world, but when we shut the window, we can't see the outer world. Though our eyes are there, but the windows are shut, so we can't see. Similarly, all the perceptions are shut when we go into dream, and mind remains active. So what happens in the dream, we should do it in the waking. Withdraw the attention of the senses totally. Become absolutely unaware of the world as well as our body. Withdraw the whole perception into the mind. That is the first step. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji writes, Shabdadibhyo Vishayebhya Shrotradini Karanani Manasi Samvritya. So having withdrawn the senses into the mind, thereafter, with the help of your buddhi, pay attention towards your inner self. Pay attention towards Kshetrajna. See, very interesting. In the Upanishad, as I said, the thing is given, that metaphor is given of that chariot. So the horses are like the senses, the mind is like the rein, the buddhi is the charioteer, and that Atma is the owner of the chariot, who is sitting inside. So what is meditation? Meditation is done by whom? With the help of this buddhi it is done. The charioteer stops the horses from moving. He controls the reins, controls the horses, and then the charioteer turns back and looks at the owner of the chariot. Or to give the modern example, let us say you are sitting in your car, a nice luxurious car, and your driver is there and he is driving the car. You're going for a joy ride in the market. And the driver thereafter doesn't pay attention to you, doesn't care where you want to go or what you want to do, just keep on driving. But then the driver understands his mistake, that I am just a driver, I should ask my master what he wants. So the driver stops the car and looks back at the master. That is what meditation is. You stop the car from going, stop your chariot of this body moving in this world, withdraw the senses, and with your buddhi, look at your own self, inner self. अपने आप को देखो. So, श्रोत्रादीनि करणानि मनसि उपसंवृत्य मनच्च प्रत्यक् चेतयितरि. With that mind, means with that buddhi, Shuddha buddhi, look at your inner self. Pratyak chetayitari means Pratyak Atma, means the Kshetrajna. And think about the Kshetrajna, means let all the thoughts flow toward the Kshetrajna only. Manasi upasamritya manascha pratyak chetayitari ekagrataya, with full focus. Do the chintan only of the Kshetrajna, so much so that with this chintan the buddhi gets absolutely tuned to that inner self and just merges into that self. Remains there as the self. That is dhyana. It's very subtle, very interesting, and direct path which will lead the person towards moksha, self-realization. So withdraw the senses into the mind. Then with the mind steady, with the help of the buddhi, focus attention on the Pratyagatma, this Kshetrajna, and remain there just thinking about a Kshetrajna. But this much is our Purushartha. Thereafter what has to happen will happen. One will gain abidance in the self. Meditation will happen. See, just as when we are tired, we just fall asleep automatically. Similarly, when we focus our attention on that Pratyagatma, we go into meditation, means we gain abidance in our own self. This may not happen in one go. One has to practice this for a long time. Because every time we do this, our attention will get disturbed. The senses will start running after the world. Little bit distraction and immediately the senses will go out. The mind will become restless. The intellect will not be able to focus on the self. So with steady practice for a long time, Sadirga Kala Nairantaryena Satkara Sevita Dridabhumihi. For a Dirga Kala, for a long time, means for years together, when one practice without a break, then one gains that abidance in that self. This is the dhyana. So in order to help us in dhyana, the person withdraws from the world. A sincere seeker withdraws from the world, drops all worldly activities, takes karma sannyas, and just focus on this meditation and gain that abidance in his self. Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi left his home and went at Tiruvannamalai and spent hours together, days, months, just sitting, meditating and gaining that abidance in his own supreme self. So this is a dhyana, okay? But this is possible only for a rare few people. This is possible when our mind is quietened by withdrawing the senses, when we have gained proper knowledge with full conviction, when our buddhi has become subtle and pure, we will be able to meditate in this way. But we need not lose hope. If we are unable to meditate in this way, we should try it out. But if we fail to meditate in this way, then we should come one step below and practice Sankhya Yoga. What is Sankhya Yoga? Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji writes, this Sankhya Yoga is not the Sankhya philosophy. That Sankhya philosophy of Kapil Muni is a Dvaita. That doesn't lead to the moksha, which is said in the Upanishads. That doesn't lead to that self-knowledge as Brahma. So we are not talking about, Bhagwan is not talking about that Sankhya philosophy. That word Sankhya is a Upanishadic word, and The knowledge of Sankhya is also given by Bhagwan's avatar as Kapila. So what is the Sankhya Yoga? Sankhya Yoga, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji, he defines here. He says कि सांख्यम नाम इमे सत्व रज तमांसि गुणाः मया दृश्या अहम तेभ्यः अन्यः. This Sankhya talks about Prakriti and I, the Purusha, as the seer of this Prakriti. So this Prakriti is made up of these three gunas, Sattva gun, Rajogun, Tamogun. And these three gunas express in our mind as the various thoughts and emotions. Like Sattvic thoughts, Rajasic thoughts, Tamasic thoughts. They express in our mind. The three gunas express in our mind, and we know and we enjoy these gunas. So, like Sattva Gun arises in the form of Shraddha, Jnana, Sukha, etc., the expressions of Sattva Gun. Rajogun, anger, jealousy, disturbance, pride. Tamogun, laziness, sleepiness, forgetfulness. So all these gunas of Prakriti express as various thoughts and emotions in our antakarana, and we identify with them so much that we ourselves feel that we have become that. That we have seen before also. Bhagwan had said that, what did he say? That Purusha Prakritisto hi bhumte prakriti jam gunan karanam guna sangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. That our sangha with these gunas, identifying with these gunas, become the cause for our birth in various life forms. So these gunas are there, which expresses as these thoughts. One should not identify but understand that I am the witness of these gunas. The gunas expressing as thoughts are different, and I am different. I am the witness of these gunas. So gunaha maya drishyaha, they are seen by me. Aham tebhyaha anyaha, I am different from them. Tad vyapara sakshi bhutaha, I am the sakshi of all the activities of these gunas. Nityo guna vilakshanaha, I am always different from these gunas. Who am I? Atma iti. Chintanam. Esha Sankhya Yoga. So this is called Sankhya Yoga, is to distinguish between the Atma and this, the thoughts of the gunas. The gunas expressing as the thoughts. One should distinguish between the Atma and these gunas, not identify with the gunas. See, when the thoughts of Sukha comes, I am the witness of this Sukha. But due to identification, I start thinking that I am Sukhi, Aham Dukhi. So Aham Sukhi, I am Sukhi, that notion is due to identification. So when the thought of Sukha comes, I should be able to see it as a witness, that this Sukha is there, a thought, and I am just witnessing it. So separating myself from my thoughts and recognizing myself as the seer of this means So recognizing the Kshetrajna as the knower of the Kshetra and the expression of the Kshetra. So distinguishing Kshetrajna and Kshetra and recognizing the Kshetra is what is called the practice of Sankhya Yoga. And when we practice this for a long time, then we gain that proper understanding of the Kshetrajna. And we understand the Kshetrajna as Brahma. See, in the Sankhya philosophy, they don't say the Kshetrajna as Brahma. But Vedanta says the Kshetrajna as Brahma. So once we understand Kshetrajna as Brahma and recognize the Kshetrajna, then we can practice meditation. We can rise higher. So meditation is the topmost sadhana. If we are unable to do that, then follow the path of Sankhya Yoga, distinguish and understand the Kshetrajna properly, separate it from all its identification and recognize it as it is. And once we recognize, we are certain, yes, this Kshetrajna is myself, and this myself, I am that Brahma. Once that recognition and conviction happens, then meditate. For this also, for Sankhya Yoga also, subtle buddhi is required and proper shravana is required. The trouble with many people is that they have not done proper shravan. Lot of confusion is there in Vedanta, what one has heard. It is not how many hours you have heard or how many texts you have studied or how many different acharyas you have listened. It is more important how accurately and properly you have understood. Free from all doubts, free from all confusion. Because many of these various texts and various acharyas, they themselves sometimes become the cause of our confusion. So once that clarity comes, then we can meditate. And once that clarity is there, we can even distinguish properly and locate the Kshetrajna properly. And who is doing this sadhana? The waker, the Bahish Prajna. The waker is doing sadhana. Kshetrajna is not doing the sadhana. The body is not doing the sadhana. The mind is not doing the sadhana. The Bahish Prajna, the one who is confused actually, is Bahish Prajna is the confused person. He is the samsari jiva. He does the sadhana. So, one can follow this path of Sankhya Yoga. But if one has not done proper shravana, if one has not done proper mananam, then we will not be able to pursue this Sankhya Yoga. Then what should we do? Bhagavan says, you please follow the path of Karma Yoga. Even to his own friend, Bhagavan Shri Krishna advises Karma Yoga. He says Karma Yoga is the most fascinating. Bhagavan says, you follow the path of Karma Yoga. No doubt you have been told about the Sankhya and the ultimate truth, but follow the path of Karma Yoga. See, sometimes we want to do mountaineering. Some people have this desire to climb the mountain and reach Mount Everest. Let us say you want to scale the mountain and reach Mount Everest, the highest peak. So you gather all the information. you practice, you make your body fit for climbing that mountain. Then you go to the base camp. And there the instructor teaches you how to then climb, and you learn the art of mountaineering. There are various mountaineering institutes are there, wherein you learn how to climb, how to use all your rope and hammer and the nails and what to carry and all sorts of things. And there they even tell you that what you should do finally when you reach the peak. Then they might give you a flag also. Please, once you reach Mount Everest, put this flag there. So even when the instructor is telling us that you should put this flag, that doesn't mean we have already reached the Mount Everest and we should not put it there itself. He is telling us about the peak, but thereafter he says, you are still here, base camp, you have to walk, you have to climb, and it's a long way. Similarly, Bhagwan has revealed the highest truth in this 13th chapter, but that doesn't mean we should forget what he has taught us in the 3rd chapter about Karma Yoga. Bhagwan says, if you are not ready for this, then please follow the path of Karma Yoga. Do your work, do your duty. What is Karma Yoga? Shankaracharya ji writes, ki karma eva yoga. Karma itself is yoga. Karma itself, we should use karma to take us towards Ishvara. Karma Yoga doesn't mean some social work or some missionary work or something like that. Karma Yoga is our work which will lead us towards Ishvara. We should use our work, our duties, our responsibilities to purify our mind and lead us towards Ishvara. So that is what is called Ishvara Arpana Buddhya Anushtheyamanam Ghatana Rupam Yogarthatvat Yoga Uchyate. And through Karma Yoga, what will happen? Gunataha tena sattva shuddhi jnanotpatti dvarena. This Karma Yoga will purify our mind, and thereafter we gain knowledge, and then we can pursue this path of Sankhya and then Dhyana. The steps are very important. We should work from where we are, not from where our friends are, not from where our teacher is, not from where other people are. We should find out where we are, and from there we work towards it. If I want to climb Mount Everest, find out where you are now. Oh, I am at Karol Bagh now. Okay, then start from there. Start from there. Though you can get all the information, everything will be available sitting at your home. You can even see nowadays with all the internet and all, you can see the pictures, you can see all the details, you can work out everything. But still you are at Karol Bagh. So you should work from there. So similarly, though one may have understood and gone ahead in his understanding, but if our mind is not prepared, then we should pursue the path of Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga will purify our mind, and as our mind becomes pure, we will understand what the scriptures are saying. Again, I am saying Karma Yoga is fulfilling all our duties with an intention of moving towards Ishvara. The purpose behind all karma should be to attain Ishvara, not anything else. That is called Karma Yoga. using the karma to take us towards Ishvara. Just as suppose you want to cross a river, you can take a boat to cross the river. But if the boat is not available, nothing is available, if you have to swim, then you should swim in such a way that every stroke takes you towards the other shore. If you start swimming down the current or up the current, that will not help. Though you are swimming, but it will not take you across. So Karma Yoga is like swimming to take you across, to take you to the other shore, to take you towards Sankhya Yoga, to take you towards the understanding of the self, which will further take you towards Ishvara Anubhuti. Okay? So Bhagavan says that there are few who attain that self-realization through dhyana. Then there are others who attain through Sankhya Yoga, means they practice Sankhya Yoga, then they practice Dhyana Yoga. Or there are those who practice Karma Yoga, thereafter they practice Sankhya Yoga and then Dhyana Yoga and attain that supreme. And for all this Sankhya Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, we require proper understanding. Only with proper understanding we can pursue this path. And that understanding comes from the study of the Shastra. These are all technical paths. Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. One can learn from the Shastra. But what if I don't have the capacity to learn and understand? I don't have that intelligence to understand what the scriptures are saying. Even after studying, reading books and all, I don't understand anything. What should I do? Bhagavan says you should listen to your teacher. In the next verse he says, Anne tve mama janantah shrutvanebhya pupasate tepi chati taranteva mrityum shruti parayanah. He says, Anne, others who, Anne tu, eshu vikalpeshu anyatarena api. Those who are not able to follow the above thing by their own understanding, ajanantaha, without understanding this method of Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, those who are unable to comprehend this, what should they do or what do they do? Annetu eshu vikalpeshu anyatarena api evam yathoktam atmanam ajanantah annebhyah acharyebhyah shrutva. Shankaracharya writes that they listen to their acharya, their teacher, and follow the instruction of the teacher regarding upasana. The teacher teaches them upasana, or teacher may teach Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga also, but teacher may teach upasana. So, annebhya acharyebhya shrutva idam eva chintayat. Chintayata iti ukta upasate shraddhadhana santah chintayanti. The teacher gives them instruction as to what upasana they should do, what type of chintan they should do, how they should do it. He gives them instruction. So even if one may not have understood the whole logic, whole philosophy, whole mechanism and the shastra behind it, but just having faith in the teacher and just doing that upasana as the teacher guides, one can progress thereafter to follow the path of Karma Yoga. Then can pursue Sankhya Yoga, then can do Dhyana Yoga. The teacher guides us to purify the mind. Upasana like japa, like puja, or even like Tirtha Yatra or some Parayan, chanting some mantras, doing Parayan, or doing some Vrata, Upavasa, Dana, Tapas. Various types of these upasanas are there, Pranayam, regulation in our eating, drinking, sleeping, waking up, Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyaha, Dharana, Dhyan, or you call Yam, Niyam, Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Parigraha. So the teacher can guide the student depending on the capacity and level of that student. Suppose a person says that, oh, I want to, again to give the same example, climb that Mount Everest. The teacher will first see how that student is, how that person is, whether that fellow is fit or not. He will say, okay, you first climb this building, go on the 10th floor, take the steps. That fellow can't even reach the 2nd floor properly, feels totally exhausted. Teacher says you are not yet fit, so you do one thing. You control your diet, then you do regular exercise and become fit. So he guides him in his regular exercises. He wants to climb Mount Everest, but he is told to run, take a round in this garden, do some jogging. And once he does that, after a few months he becomes fit. Then the teacher says, okay, now you can come and join this mountaineering institute. I will teach you further technique of how to climb the mountains. Similarly, if one doesn't understand the subtler sadhana, the teacher can guide the student on doing some simple upasana, which will help to purify our mind and then can lead us towards karma yoga, sankhya yoga, and then dhyana. So anne tu evam ajanantaha shrutva annebhya upasate. So shrutva, just by listening and having that faith in the acharya, teacher, and just doing that sadhana, upasana sincerely, what happens to them? Bhagavan says, Tepi cha atitaranti eva. They also will cross over this samsara. In the stages, they will also cross over this samsara. Te api cha atitaranti eva. Atikramanti eva. Mrityum. What is this samsara? Mrityum. It's of death. That means mrityu yuktam samsaram. A constant taking birth and dying itself is this samsara. Being born again and again in different life forms itself is samsara. So they will also cross over this samsara. Shruti Parayana, those who are Shruti Parayana, they listen, they are good listeners and they obey the teacher implicitly. They are called Shruti Parayana. See, there are those who listen and don't obey. They are not mentioned here. Many people actually they approach great masters and ask them also, what should I do? And the teacher, out of his kindness and compassion, tells them, okay, you do this, and they don't do it. They are not Shruti Parayana. Bhagavan says, Shruti Shravanam Param Ayanam Gamanam Moksha Marga Pravruttau Param Sadhanam Esham Te Shruti Parayanaha Kevala Paropadesha Pramanaha Swayam Viveka Rahita Iti Abhiprayaha. So they themselves cannot study and understand the scriptures, but they listen to the teacher and implicitly obey the teacher, follows all the discipline, instructions properly, then they can reach. Bhagwan doesn't give any other options now. This is the final. Listen to your teacher and do your sadhana, then practice karma yoga, sankhya yoga, dhyana. But those who don't listen to the teacher, they are their own guru. They are their own masters. Many people say, I am a self-made man. Oh, therefore you look so ugly. So there are those who don't listen to anyone. I will read, I will study by myself, and I will follow it by myself. See, when you are asleep, fast asleep, by yourself you cannot get up. You will get up when your time is to get up, or if somebody wakes you up. Similarly, those who are asleep in this samsara, they cannot get up by themselves. They can get up by the blessings of the teacher. So that is very important. So, kimu vaktavyam pramanam prati swatantra, and those who have the capacity by the blessings of the teacher thereafter to study, understand and pursue this path, Bhagavan says they will definitely reach their goal. Kimu vaktavyam pramanam prati swatantra vivekinaha mrityum atitaranti iti aviprayaha. See, we require some guidance in the initial stages to comprehend what the scriptures are saying. The Shravan we should do with the Ashirvad of our teacher. Thereafter we can independently do Manan and Nididhyasana. But the Shravan we have to do it with the blessings of the teacher and comprehend the truth properly without any error. If there is even a little error, then we will be totally lost. We will not be able to attain our goal properly. Okay? So, these are very beautiful shlokas where Bhagwan gives the method of attaining that self-realization. So, you listen to this again, contemplate, understand, and follow this path shown so clearly, vividly, and reach your destination. Okay? More about this we will see in our class tomorrow. Till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy. Do your work, do your sadhana, and contemplate and understand what you have heard. Okay? See you tomorrow. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. Jaya Jaya Ram. Boliye Siyav Ramchandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।